Okay, this is my first contribution to YouTube, so bear with me on the quality of it. Wasn't really planning on making a video tonight, but figured what the hell, this might help someone else out. This is a 2015 Ram Ecodiesel, and I have to replace the oil filter housing on it. I've already pulled the old oil filter housing from it. It's on the ground here. You have to excuse the mess. But there's the old one, new one. Get a flashlight here. There are total of 4 10mm head bolts that hold it to the engine block. The bottom one here is underneath the AC compressor bracket. So that's what kind of makes this job a pain in the butt. You're gonna have to set aside, unbolt the AC compressor, set it aside, then unbolt the AC compressor bracket behind it from the block. That's a new one. Obviously this, the O-ring right here, this is pretty flat on this one. This is what was leaking all over the engine block. Sure, you could just replace the seal, but you know, you have engine oil and coolant passing through this housing. So this truck has about 190,000 miles on it. So I figured it'd be smart just to replace the whole assembly. Let me take you over here. First thing you want to do right off the bat is get this thing up on jack stands in the front, then remove the wheel well housing on it. And let me get a light in here. So this is on the driver's side of the engine block here. You can see where I had this bolt sticking out of the hose. That's the one coolant hose that goes to it. It's a 5/8 ID. Again, so that bottom, the triangular pattern of bolts there, that bottom bolt was behind the AC compressor bracket, which I had just kind of laying here. Those are the AC lines. That's the AC compressor also just kind of lying there. You just got to unbolt that stuff and pull it away. I think there's 3 bolts that hold the AC compressor to the bracket. They all have a 13mm head on them. One is a stud. I decided to remove the stud. It's an external Torx head on it. I think maybe, well, I don't know, E15. I didn't really look at it that closely. But, you know, set aside the AC compressor. Then the bracket that bolts up to the engine block has one T55 bolt in the top there. You can just see it. And then there's 2 13mm head bolts that hold at the engine block. And then one 8mm bolt right underneath that idler wheel that holds it to a small bracket there. But once you get all that stuff out of the way, that oil filter housing comes right out. You're gonna lose very little oil, but you are gonna lose a lot of engine coolant. Almost all the coolant in the engine block, so get a drain pan ready. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna bolt this thing back together and continue the video. And also on this oil filter housing, I want to point out that, flip it on the back side here. The new one comes with, I believe, is a coolant temp sensor here. It does not come with this oil pressure sensor, so I had to transfer it over from the old one. So that's something to keep in mind when you're buying this from the dealership. As of right now, the only place to get this from is the dealership, as far as I'm aware. I'm not seeing any aftermarket company that offers this. I looked all over online. I will say, it's interesting that this new one came in a Mopar box from the dealership, made in China, and made by U5 Filters. So maybe with that information, maybe you might find an alternative to the dealership to buy this from. But again, this was about $300 out the door of the dealership as of January 2023. Okay, I'll continue with this. Okay, this is the front of the engine here. There's a large acoustic cover, a foam cover that covers the front of the engine. Just remove that. There's about, I think, 4 10mm bolts that hold it to the timing cover. Once you remove that, this all becomes visible. I don't even like reinstalling the acoustic cover. I think it's just a pain in the butt and just hides problems. But here is the belt tensioner up here, 15 millimeter hex on that, like any other vehicle. Do that, then you can take the belt off the AC compressor. Now, try to get in here. Okay, it's really dark in here, so excuse the video, but right there, right where my flashlight is focused on, that is a 13 millimeter head bolt that holds the AC compressor bracket to the engine block. Once you undo the bolts and studs that hold the AC compressor to its bracket, you can jostle this AC compressor around and pretty easily get to that bolt. Again, it's most easily accessible from the front of the engine, like where I'm at now. Also, for that AC compressor bracket, that 8 millimeter bolt that I'm focused on right now, right in the middle of that triangular pattern, that bolt, undo that because that also holds the AC compressor bracket to the small triangular shaped bracket on the timing cover. But yeah, once you undo that 8 millimeter bolt, that 13 millimeter one down low, there's a T55 Torx on the other one, on the other side of this compressor, and then a 13 millimeter hex bolt. So a total of 3 large bolts that hold the AC compressor bracket to the engine, and then you got this one small 8 millimeter bolt up here. So once you undo those 4 bolts, then you can jostle around the AC compressor bracket and ultimately get access to the lowest bolt on the oil filter housing. Okay, got her back up and running. Got the oil changed. I did double check that oil filter housing just to be sure it came with an oil filter, and it did. Anyway, filled in about probably I think 11 quarts of 5W40, not 1540. So I bought a 2.5 gallon jug from the store plus 1 more quart. Yeah, what can I say? Up and running. There's a new oil filter housing. Double check for leaks, nothing. Had to add probably about, I don't know, about a gallon and a half of coolant, I suppose, is what I lost when I removed that oil filter housing. But yeah, and everyone's always curious about the longevity of these engines. This particular truck, 2015, has 192,000 miles on it, so it's getting up there. But yeah, hopefully that helps someone out, and yeah, appreciate you watching. Thanks.